So, hello, I'm Philippe Verborgh. I'm a biologist here at the museum. And so this will be a general talk on photo identification and some tips and things on how to try to improve. Maybe some of you are already using this type of methodology, and so the idea is to go through a bit of a step-by-step and some of the limitations and things like that. Okay, so what is photo identification or photo ID? So it's the photograph of a long-term recognizable natural distinctive feature. So this can vary from one species to another, but it's a tool that can answer to many questions, as Pedrin has shown how the variety of information you can get from photo identification. It's usually non-intrusive, so you don't need to actually capture the animal or throw anything at it, because you're just taking a simple picture. So I've put simple in brackets, as we'll see. Taking a picture is not always as easy as it is, and it has very powerful outcome. So first, a quick note on the material that is used. So it should be what feels right for you. So there's lots and lots of cameras out there, but usually the heavier it is, the best quality you will get, but sometimes it's too heavy for you to manipulate well, so you should choose wisely on that sort of material. We're usually using now digital SLR cameras, so that can take at least 5 images per second. So this is interesting because animals comes out of the water, so you need to be quite fast to get good images. Use zoom lenses, so between 200 and 400. Beyond that it can get a bit tricky on moving boats in the sea. Use SD cards that are fast and have high capacity, so you're not stopped in the middle of a sighting where you can't take pictures anymore. You have the batteries always charged, so you're not run out of battery also in the middle of an important sighting. Make copies of your pictures. I've been stolen once, my entire computer and hard drives in the car that was traveling with me, so it's good if you have another backup in a different place. And also always clean your material. It's as we'll see, it can do a lot of very nice things. So how to do photo identification? So as I said before, depending on the species, you want to look at the dorsal fin for most of delphinid species. So this is an example of a pilot whale here from Madeira that you can see. It has evolved a little bit over the time, so it has a new nick here in 2011 and a new one here in 2015, but still you can recognize it quite easily. You can use the fluke for sperm whales or humpback whales, the saddle patch for killer whales, or even the eye patch. So there you are looking at patterns of coloration and shapes. You can use body scars for beaked whales, especially in males, and of course for the rhesus dolphin. Recently it's been shown that you can even use the face of the dolphin, so they will have coloration on their head that is actually symmetric, and you can use that to recognize them. Or the pigmentation, so it's especially for blue whales on the body, or here I've put an example of common dolphins that can have different white patterns in the dorsal fin that you can also use for photo ID. Okay, so to do photo identification, first you need to get close to the animal. So depending on the platform you're working, if it's from a research platform, then you probably have you should have a permit to come close to the animals. Otherwise there are usually some limits of distances. This is in Spain, where you can get closer to 60 meters to the animals. And so the captain here is actually key. Is the person that will put the photographer in the right place to take the good picture. So never underestimate a good captain to have a good photo ID done in the field. And so there should be a lot of coordination as well between the photographer and the person driving the boat. Usually you would try to have a slow approach on the side to go parallel to the animal and go at the same speed as the group. it's important to stay perpendicular, so not stay behind, otherwise you're not perpendicular to the dorsal fin, if that's what you're trying to get. And not to be in the front either, otherwise you usually end up having the propeller in front of the animal, and that's not what you want. So for all of that, you need to understand the general movement of the group. So a lot of the time, if you're working with bottlenose dolphins, for example, you can have some individuals leaving the group and coming to bow ride the boat. And if you have a narrow view, then you will start following your bow riding individuals, but they're actually the ones following you. So you should stay with the big general group that is moving along, and let them play around with the boat. You should also understand if the animals are collaborating with you, so they are continuing doing what they're doing, or they don't care about your presence, or if they are evading the boat. So evading is when you arrive, then they start changing course and try to stay away from you. Usually if you try again and they change again, then you can be pretty sure that you're actually annoying them at that time, and then you should leave them for that day. So if you're doing research, then you should stay with the group the time necessary to photograph all individuals. This means identifying some of the individuals in the field. So being able to distinguish and to be able to say, okay, this one I've already have a very good picture of him, so I can move on to try to get good pictures of the other individuals. So this shouldn't always be based only on the nicks they have in the dorsal fin, but also on the general shape, the size, the color, the large scars. So you can use external parameters that are sometimes more easily visible when you're out at sea than just the dorsal fin. But it's also a good exercise to actually try to recognize individuals at sea. And a lot of people, until they actually try to see the marks, they don't realize that it's much easier to do than what you would think of. And if you have a large group, then you should go from the back of the group all the way to the front of the group. And so you would sample all the individuals within that group, and never forget the ones that are further behind. Okay, so with the same idea that you want to get all the individuals present. And also try to never cross the group, so if the group changes direction, then you should change as well to avoid them going under the boat. So to take well-focused picture, a good thing is to follow a single individual at a time and to pre-focus before it actually comes out of the water. So you would follow an individual underwater, so that when it comes out, you're already focused on the area, and you can take a really good picture. Yeah, I've put this picture here of many individuals in the picture, where you could think, well, I'll just shoot in the middle and I'll get all of them. But actually this one is the only one that is really well focused. All the other ones are out of focus, so you cannot really use them for photo identification. So it's also important to have a good balance of your own body in the boat, to find your place. Sometimes in large whale watching boat it's difficult if you have a lot of people in front, so it's always good if you're going on a boat, or if you're working on a boat, to find the right place from which you can let the clients have the good visibility, and yourself be in a place where you can move around and see the animals well. So there's also additional information that can be taken in the field. So general effort and weather conditions, that so the sightings can be used for other type of surveys. To have the sighting information, such as the behavior, the group size, if it's mixed with other species, that it can also be helpful when you are dealing with your pictures at the end of the day, to know how to deal with that and separate the different species. You can also try to relate picture number with parameters of the individual you've just photographed. So you know the age class or the sex, if it has turned around and show you the sex, and you know you had the dorsal fin just before. Or to have mother-calf pairs as well. These are very important parameters. So another thing that you can try to do is to estimate the proportion of the group that you have photographed. So then afterwards you would know if you can use this type of data for different types of analysis. Okay, so the new cameras nowadays, they can rapidly take thousands of pictures when you're out in a single day. And so that means that you have to learn to be selective in the field and work to improve the quality of the pictures you're taking, so you can actually lower the number of pictures you're taking. So it's a good thing to have the photograph revising his own pictures at the end of the day, because it will still have in mind the pictures that was taken, how it was taken. So maybe it was really bad days, or the animals were really spread out, so it was difficult, or then you understand why you don't have very high quality pictures of all the individuals. And also learn if there was enough zoom, so to find which is the limit until where you should actually take pictures and it's still useful. So on the screen you can then zoom easily at 100% and check the real size picture quality. So nowadays you have cameras that can take up to 20 megapixels pictures, so even if the dorsal fin looks like far away, sometimes you can zoom in so much that it's still actually a useful picture. So yeah, another thing is to learn to shoot at the base of the dorsal fin to avoid the focus being behind on the water. And here I've put an example of that. And so although the dorsal fin is the middle, the focus is actually here on the water behind the dorsal fin. So if you had focus before on the area here, so more at the base of the dorsal fin, then probably you would have a better picture than this one. Okay, so this happens a lot. It depends a lot on how high you are taking the picture. So the lower you are, the more you will have this kind of problem. The higher you are, the less problem you have with this. So in my personal experience, it's actually much faster to analyze a lot of high quality pictures than just a few of low quality pictures that you're trying to rescue, because it's the only material you have. So to come back to the material and learning on how to do good pictures, then it's actually a good idea to think about that. Okay, so once you've taken all these pictures, you want to create a catalog, a reference catalog against which you will match all the pictures that you've taken, and then know how many you have. So now there are new softwares that have been developed, and as a rule of thumb, if you have less than 1,000 individuals in your catalog, it's actually faster by eye to do the matching, and if you're over that, then it's faster using the softwares. So up until now, most of the softwares were semi-automatic, so you actually need to help to draw the contour of the fin, so it's actually taking time. It's not completely automatic, and you have to play along with that. But there are a few new interesting softwares that are coming out now that are using machine learning and artificial intelligence, such as Fin Finder and Wild Book or Dolphin. So these type of softwares may be very interesting in the future to test and see how good they're doing, and more than anything, they will get better and better as you use them. Okay, so this is a setup I'm using usually to analyze pictures. So on one side you have your raw pictures, and on the other side you have your reference catalog, and there under you have the database that you will fill with information. So the type of information that you want to know the angle, so from where did you took the pictures, so to know if you're really perpendicular to the dorsal fin, or if you're a bit behind or a bit in front. The quality of the picture of the dorsal fin, so if it's really high quality, so well focused, well lit, when you zoom in, it's actually you have enough definition to see tiny detail. Then the distinctiveness of the individual, so is the individual really well marked, or is it just a very small notch that you can see, but that might be difficult to see again in another picture. To know which individual this dorsal fin corresponds to, and then sometimes the age class. So with some individual, you can actually know if you're seeing an adult or a calf on the picture. So there are some limitations. So when you're using data from platform opportunities, so you can have this limits of distance by law that you cannot go closer to a certain distance. So by default, you will almost always have animals quite far away. You may not get a perfect angle because the boat is not there to actually do photo identification, so you might stay a bit behind or be in front or something like that. You don't always have access to high quality material. It's non-systematic, so although they go out a lot, they will not always cover an area systematically. And sometimes you don't have access to all the information of a sighting, so just even the GPS position or the group size, etc. Another important limitation is very time consuming to analyze pictures, so it will depend on the size of the catalog and the local knowledge of the catalog. So a person that knows well the individuals from where he's working will be much faster to go through the catalog and already knows where it is, where if it's a new person then he has to go through all the catalog every time to find each individual. So this means that you can go from analyzing, for example, 100 dorsal fin images per day and up to 1,500 if you are really well trained and you know really well